Not yet, Asil? No.
No, just 1 second because, yeah, I don't know what's going on with the live stream.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I didn't miss my cue.
Okay. It's not recording. Okay. But if you like, you can start with welcoming people.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your patience. We had a few technical glitches at the beginning, but I'd like to welcome you to our session. My name is Paula Masad, and I'm the English Language and Education Advisor at the U.S. Embassy in Doha. And welcome to today's webinar about making the transition to U.S. university life in partnership with Baylor University in Texas. And I know this is a little bit of a frustrating time because many of you are having to delay your travel to the United States due to the suspension of the visa services. But we know that eventually you're going to make it to the United States. And we hope that this session will help you prepare for that eventual transition. I have with me today my colleagues, Melissa and Asil. Asil, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. This is Essil Ogaili. I'm the education advisor, and welcome to our session today. We hope that it would be useful to you.
And Melissa?
Yes, hello everyone, welcome. I am Melissa Deschamps. I'm the Regional Educational Advising Coordinator for Education USA in the Middle East and North Africa. Our network is global, so we provide lots of advising, resources, connections, advice to anyone interested in higher education in the US. So we welcome you to the session today. You will get a lot of helpful tips, information, and obviously an opportunity to ask your questions. So please be sure you type in your questions in the chat box if you are on the Zoom call. And if you're watching via Facebook Live, then you can also type your questions there, and we'll make sure that the presenters can see those and answer them for you. So again, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa and Asil. And I also would like to welcome our presenters today from Baylor University. We have Jennifer O and Grace Stottlemyre, and welcome you both. And I'll let you introduce yourselves a little bit further.
Thank you so much. It's really our pleasure to be here. Thank you for joining us. My name is Jennifer O. I'm the Assistant Director of International Admissions at Baylor University. We're so pleased to be here with you, and I'll go ahead and give Grace a moment to introduce herself as well.
Thanks, Jennifer. My name is Grace. I am one of the admissions representatives at the International Admissions Office at Baylor University. I just graduated from Baylor in May, so I haven't been on the team long, but it's been really exciting to get to meet all these international students. We're really excited to be here, and we're excited to get to know you guys as well.
So thank you so much for joining us all. I'll go ahead and jump right into what we've prepared. We wanted to just share just a little bit about what you might expect with US university education, as well as some tips and some ways that you can just try and prepare yourself when you have the opportunity to actually join us in the US, as well as some things to think about if you're considering and have not yet applied to the US, some things that are distinctive in terms of resources and things that US universities can offer you. I'll be using Baylor as a reference point, and please keep in mind that every university in the US, we have so many options available. There are over 5,000 universities, and so every university, just like every individual, kind of has its own personality. But this is just a little bit of information that's hopefully useful to you as you look ahead to your university studies. And so one of the first questions that comes up for many young people as they are getting ready to start their college and university experience is, who will you become? And it's such a formative time for you to be in university and to start your journey as a young adult and explore different passions. And so that's something that we really emphasize at Baylor, but I think as a whole for universities in the US. And it looks like, let me just go ahead and keep going. And so one of the things that I like to highlight for Baylor, at least, is that we really emphasize how you be you, like how to be the best you that you can be, how to go above and beyond. And so many times with a long history of higher education in the US, you have access to resources that have been established for a long time. You have departments that have been set up specifically for international students and to offer support to you as a special population. We know that there are exceptional challenges and obstacles that are very unique to international students. And so I really encourage you, as you look into universities, do the research that is necessary to really be able to make the most of those opportunities, to be able to access and be aware of what kinds of resources are available to me, who on campus will be there for my first point of contact. And these are all things that will help to make your transition to US university life smoother. So just as a quick overview, I'm just gonna go through a little bit about an advantage of US universities, and generally, specifically with Baylor, but in general, US universities give you the opportunity to study many different areas of interest, whereas other universities globally, oftentimes you're locked into a certain track of study. You have to already know who you want to become coming out of high school. You have to have a career path in mind. But with Baylor, as with many other universities, you have many study options. So at Baylor, you have over 140 different majors that you can choose from, whether that's you're interested in flying and you want to become a pilot, so you can do aviation sciences, or you're passionate about theater and you really want to pursue the arts and you can do musical theater at Baylor, or the very common pre-medicine, pre-health kinds of studies, or business and entrepreneurship. Those are all options that you can study, and you can you have flexibility to mix and match. So that's something that you can keep in mind as you come into a US university, that you do have flexibility. You will have academic advisors that will help you to almost tailor make your scheduling so that you'll be able to complete your major area of study while also exploring other areas of interest. So you can take classes on rock climbing and camping if you'd like to do that, while you are also doing research with some of the top professors in the chemistry department. So that's a really great advantage. I'd say another thing to look into when you're looking at a university are the opportunities for undergraduate research. And the reason why I'm emphasizing this is because there are very few points that will really make you stand out from other undergraduates as you are applying to graduate programs, PhD programs, or professional, even taking your next step into your professional career. And one of the distinctive things is if you have undergraduate research experience. And so if you have a university that offers research opportunities, that's something that I would highly recommend that you look into. Another consideration would be the amount of interaction that you will have with your faculty, and not just PhD students and graduate students, but tenured faculty, doctoral professors, and how much face-to-face time you will actually have with them will make a big difference for the quality of your education, as well as the type of connections that you're able to make during your time in undergraduate years. So with Baylor, we have high levels of research, and many big universities will have access to really state-of-the-art technology, which is really great. And so being aware of the facilities that are available on campus, especially in the area of study that you would like to go into, I would recommend that you reach out to professors, get their contact information or department contacts, and find out like what kinds of resources machinery and research opportunities are available for undergraduate students. That's all a big part of your transition. Another big piece will be, again, your level of interaction with faculty. And so at Baylor, we really pride ourselves with the intentionality of our faculty. I'm sure Grace will be able to attest to forming really close friendships with faculty. And that's something that's very different for international students coming from backgrounds where you don't really know your professors on a personal level. Your teachers are just kind of your teachers in the class. But at Baylor, it's very common to actually call your professor by their first name, to have their cell phone number, and to grab coffee with them, and to just hang out during their office hours. And so it's a very different dynamic that international students probably want to be prepared for. It's uncomfortable for me as an Asian American even, because I was raised in a culture where you're very respectful. Like, a sign of respect is by keeping that distance between your professor and somebody in a higher level of position than yourself. So it was so hard for me to address professors by their first name instead of Dr. so-and-so or Director so-and-so. I was very accustomed to addressing by title. And actually what's very distinctive about the US is that you're able to form these close connections, and it may take some time, but this is just a heads up for you that as you head into US universities, very often you'll find that most professors, and especially depending on the culture of the university, at Baylor, you'll be able to have very friendship-like relationships with your professors. And of course that changes from individual to individual, but I'd say on the whole, very intentional faculty makes a huge difference. And once you overcome that initial kind of uncomfortableness of reaching out to faculty, you'll find that they are more than willing to be a resource to you. So that's huge. And that actually contributes, I think, to student success. You'll notice that we do have a high ranking within US News and World Reports, and that's something that we're really proud of. And all of that together, I think, with the relationships of the faculty, the high levels of research, as well as the many different areas of study that are available at Baylor, all of those contribute to student success. Another consideration as you're looking to the US is the region that you will be going to. The US has all different climates, all different feelings and personalities to cities as well. And so within Texas, for example, we are in the south of the US. So generally, especially at this time of year, it is quite hot. It's a climate that you're probably used to. It's not something like going to Buffalo, New York, where you'll have mountains of snow that you're trekking through and sliding down hills on your bottom trying to get to class. So Texas, you're only gonna get maybe a dusting of snow, but for the most part, we have a hot climate. Those are all considerations for you to be thinking about as you're coming in. I'm actually originally from New York, so as I was coming down to Texas, I was thinking, well, it's gonna be hot all year round. I honestly I wasn't prepared for the windy winters, and so I was caught off guard, even from being within the United States, with the climate. And so being able to ask questions like, okay, what should I pack? And even if you're coming to Texas for the winter, you're gonna need a winter coat just to ward off some of the windiness that comes through. And another factor besides climate is also the opportunities that will be available to you after graduation. And so I know when people right now might be thinking of Texas, it may not come to mind in terms of job opportunities. There may be other things that are coming up in the news and the media, but actually our location within Texas gives you really amazing opportunities and access to all of these major cities. So we like to call Waco the heart of Texas. We're right in between Dallas and Austin, an hour and a half away from each. So we have the benefit of a beautiful college campus where you can once you are on campus, you'll be able to study and focus on your studies. And then on the weekends, if you want to go out and have fun and access like a big city kind of vibe, then you can do that in Dallas, Austin, Houston, San Antonio. Those are all accessible and drivable for students. And so that's something to keep in mind. What kind of environment are you looking for? Do you need to be absolutely in the big city as you're applying to school? So, and if that's the case, then you're going to want to look at urban campuses and big city areas. But really, I would encourage you to consider the option of a campus experience, because there is no other time in your life that you will be able to live on a campus, have a US campus experience, university experience with some of your classmates. And that's something that I'll go into a little bit more in a bit, but that's just another piece to keep in mind, like urban locations, suburban, or like a campus piece. And something that also plays into that is the cost of living. It is drastically different depending on where you are located within the US. And that's something that you and your family will have to budget for. You will have to keep that in mind. If you're going to a big city like Boston or New York, then the cost of living, not only the housing prices, but also the grocery bills, the eating out bills, every piece is going to be elevated in terms of added costs. So that is another piece to keep in mind as you are applying for schools in urban areas, making a realistic budget for yourself and for your family. Thankfully, Waco, we have the benefit of having kind of a small town budget, even though we're a mid-sized city. And so our cost of living is considerably less for our students, but for big cities like San Diego or out in California or New York, that is something that you want to be preparing ahead for and mindful of. It's not just the tuition cost, the sticker price that you're seeing on universities. You also need to keep in mind how much will it cost for me to live there. And I'll go ahead and jump into student life, because that is a big piece of what your college experience is going to be all about. And I know virtually right now, it is very difficult to kind of grasp what it will be like once you are on campus, but we are really hopeful and working towards having all of our students come and join us and be with us. And so through this video, you're seeing just glimpses of what campus is like, students just hanging out with one another, the relationships that you are forming in college and university, the memories that you're making through traditions like this is what's called the Baylor line and homecoming. These are all things that will stay with you and also connect you with the alumni and people that have come before you, generations of Baylor or other graduates alma mater from the alma mater that will be very useful for you when you are networking and when you're looking for careers. All of that is very important and a huge part of US universities. So that's just a little bit of a glimpse of what that might look like, as well as I'm going to skip through this video just for the sake of time, but it will be available for you all afterwards. And I would very much recommend that you get involved with any opportunities to join the campus community. At Baylor, a huge part is athletics. We have a really strong school spirit. So if that's something that you're looking for, then that's a big part of many athletics programs, schools with bigger athletics programs. You'll be able to go to games and cheer, and things that you see on TV are things that are actually happening on campus, but it's something that you will have to seek out and make time for and put into your schedule as part of your time management. So this is just a picture of our stadium with like Division I athletics. As you can see, there are thousands and thousands of people. So you would want to plan ahead. Baylor students actually get free tickets, and that's a great benefit. If you're going to a big university, you definitely look into seeing if you can have free tickets to sporting events. But for certain games, you'll have to reserve seats and you'll have to plan ahead. And so that's another big piece, making sure that you are well informed about what kinds of things are going on around campus and planning ahead for that so that you can adjust your study schedule as well as making sure that you get a seat at these places. You'll see a wide variety of different facilities available at Baylor. We have a river that runs right along campus called the Brazos River. It's one of the largest rivers in Texas, and it's beautiful because you have also access not only to campus but beautiful like outdoor natural resources. And so that's something, if you're wanting to be in contact with nature and need a little bit less of a concrete jungle and more of like an ability to just get away and kind of escape on a weekend, then places like the Brazos River, like we have free paddle boarding, volleyball, all of these great opportunities that are available for students for free on the weekends. And so these are all things like inside tips and tricks that you can find out about from previous students as well as staff members. Admissions counselors are always happy to highlight some of those things. Another piece are the traditions that are a big part of U.S. universities. Baylor was established in 1845 before Texas was even a state. And so we have a long history, and with that come many traditions, as I said, that kind of tie our alumni and our current students together. It's kind of like big family reunions or stories that you pass down from generation to generation, things that your family knows of, and big holidays that you celebrate together and that kind of bind you together once a year, twice a year. You come together. Those things are very important for building your community and your culture. And so a big part of U.S. universities are the different traditions. I know of different traditions. At William and Mary, there was one where you jump into a pond and have to swim across this murky water. I didn't participate in that. But with Baylor, you have traditions like the Baylor line, where all the freshmen, first-year students, obviously this is not during the time of COVID. This is not right now. This is not social distance, unfortunately. But once we are able to be all together again, the Baylor line is like all the freshmen come together. You'll see they have their yellow jerseys with their nicknames written on the back, and they get to run across the football field on national TV sometimes. And sometimes we've had very creative guys try and get their first date at their freshman year, and instead of writing their name, they'll write their phone number on the back. That is not necessarily a tip that I'm sharing as a transition to the US, but it is a strategy that has been used. And that's something to be aware of as you're coming into the US. There is a different kind of culture, and to be ready to socialize, and also if you're feeling uncomfortable, to be able to express your level of comfort and to find your community that you're able to really connect well with. Not everybody is going to be friends with everyone else, but to have your pocket of friends is really important. And so a big part of that might be intramural sports. If big athletics is not your thing and you just want to play sports with friends, intramurals are a big part of US universities that you can get involved with. And if not sports, I'm not very athletic, if you can't tell. I've got flabby arms, but you can get involved with student organizations of all different kinds. We have over 330 and growing at Baylor. Other universities have thousands of different organizations for the much larger universities, but a lot of it is finding out your niche or your community of friends, because with bigger schools, it can be easy to feel like you're lost in the crowd. And getting involved with student organizations is one big way that you can find your circle of friends, get connected, and around a common interest. It could be
you like debate, so Model UN might be something that you're interested in. Or if you enjoy musical performance, then you might want to get involved with a musical group. As well as cultural organizations. We have a bunch of students that are getting involved in all different ways, but all of that contributes to your university experience. And I'm just gonna go ahead and share a few things of what makes things distinctive for new students. So freshmen coming into university specifically, most universities will have an orientation program or a welcome type program for students, for all of their freshmen, because it is a big transition to come from high school life and transition into university life. But with Baylor, we have what's called Line Camp, and it's a week where students connect with one another as well as with current students. And that's a great advantage that many students should definitely take advantage of, as well as our student orientation, which again, all students take part in. Baylor, we have a specific program called Global Bears Week, which is specific for our international students, and it's designed with orientation components, but it is specific for international students, information that you need to know and things that are helpful for you coming from abroad, as well as specific concerns that you might have. Actually, Baylor has one of the top first-year experiences in the entire country. US News and World Reports actually ranks us in the top 10 in the entire US first-year experiences, because students feel so welcome. The transition into campus life, because of all of the things I've mentioned before, all contribute to really successful freshman years for students. And another piece would be, as I mentioned, resources dedicated specifically for international students. At Baylor, we have the International Student and Scholar Services Office, and they have been a huge, huge resource for our international students. Anything from visa questions, of course, to where can I find a good meal that's not Texas barbecue, you know, like not dining hall options, or like if I want to get my driver's license, what are my steps that I would take? And Grace has wonderful experience working directly with our ISSS office, actually. She was one of our ambassadors. So there are current students that volunteer to help our international students get adjusted. So you can kind of have a buddy system on campus. If you're not as comfortable talking with staff or faculty at that point yet, that's available. And also we have what's called a global friendship program. So other US universities may have similar programs where you are able to get connected with local families. And so a benefit of this is really to have somebody on the ground in your local community, somebody that you can reach out to, that you start feeling comfortable with. And basically an international student will be almost adopted into a local family where they will be able to offer kind of weekend getaways if you'd like to experience just American life, having barbecues with the family or going on small trips. In case of emergencies, sometimes this is very, I guess, reassuring for parents when your child is halfway across the world and you don't necessarily have relatives or contacts in the area. Having a global friendship program or something similar to this, where there are resources right there for you, that is also another piece that I would recommend that you look into. I know the media can sometimes make it seem like the US is not friendly to outsiders, to internationals, but actually what we find in our community is the exact opposite, where our international students are very much embraced. Families are waiting actually to work with and welcome international students into the Baylor community and in Waco. So that's a really great piece to think into, as well as not just current students, but also the Alumni Network that extends globally. So we have had students from all over the world, and the same for many USU institutions. The Alumni Network, people who have graduated from Baylor before you or a US university before you, very often they are great resources and connections as you transition either back home, or if you're planning to stay in the States and there are work visas and permits that come through for you. That's a great resource to tap into. Again, another resource that will be available is the International Student Academic Support Department, which is established at Baylor, but there are also very general academic support services on every US, just about every US campus, where you have access to free tutoring, or in this case, this is our writing center. In university, you are doing a lot of writing, and the type of writing that you do in university isn't necessarily the same as what you did in high school. There are certain ways that you need to really adjust the way that you cite things, the tone of your writing. All of those things are areas where with your professor, you will get a good amount of instruction, but if you need supplemental help, and if you find that you're struggling, even online, as an online student right now, we have writing center and tutors available for our students. And so that is definitely something that I would recommend as you're looking to a US education, but just university life in general. Don't wait until the last minute, until it's finals time and you're freaking out about your papers. Make sure that you are taking in your drafts of your writing samples, like work on it steadily and work with somebody, especially your first few times, and that will really help you to kind of get in the groove of university style writing, as well as making use of these resources that are there for you. And so that's something to consider on campus. And I'm just going to close with a few things as you look ahead. After you've been on campus a while, you've gotten involved in extracurriculars, you've connected with your professors, and you have made use of all of these support systems that are there. What else is available as you look ahead? I think one of the biggest things are the outcomes of your university. And for our university, we have many specialized departments, like our career services department, and they help to set up things like internships, as well as a whole database of jobs that are available, and connect students to on-campus job opportunities if that's something that you're interested in doing. So international students are usually able to work part-time as they are also studying. We're hiring even within our own department to have international students work with us. And so this is an opportunity. It's not a huge chunk of money where it's going to make a big dent in tuition, as much as it will help offset some of the cost of living things, because your main objective as an international student is for you to study and to focus on that. But there are some work opportunities available for students as well. So some of these outcomes I like highlighting for Baylor specifically are like our pre-med option. We have a pre-health office that is very, very successful in placing students. We have double the national average acceptances into medical school programs. For international students, it is very different because domestic med programs generally don't have international applicants, but there are a few that do. And from those few, we have had successful international students matriculate into med school, as well as our law school, our pre-law program. So these programs specifically are pre-professional programs. Again, look into those with your academic advisor. Do the research as you're looking into different university. How are these pre-professional programs? Don't just look at the major rankings in US News and World Reports, but ask about their outcomes, because that is very indicative of the type of support and preparation that you'll get as a pre-professional. Again, I mentioned career services is an office that almost every US university campus will have available in some form or fashion to support students as they look ahead to job placements. At Baylor, we'll have job fairs right on campus, and different companies will come right to us to recruit our students for internships as well as for jobs. Handshake is a great online portal that has very similar offerings, and it really, you can even search by OPT or H-1B visa kind of job openings, and that really helps to narrow your search as well as give you access to a different idea of what job openings are available to students in your field. Another factor that is not very, I guess, commonly thought of is most college students don't have a professional wardrobe to go to these job interviews for this job fair. And so that's something that Baylor has put in place, resources like the career closet, where students can go shopping essentially to rent or borrow professional clothing for their interviews, for the job fairs, for internships, and all of that is free. And so it's a really exceptional opportunity, but things like that are things that you really want to be aware of in terms of resources on campus. When you're packing from Doha, you're not thinking, oh, I better put my blazer and my button-down shirt in my suitcase. That's not necessarily where your mind is. And so you'll have that kind of option available through the career closet at Baylor, and your school other schools may have similar opportunities available. These are just some of the companies that have relationships with our university. We have alumni working there. We have partnerships with some of these companies. And so again, thinking about the outcomes of your education will be very, very important. I know, especially with the US, we're not going to beat around the bush compared to all of the other options that are available globally. The US does have a higher sticker price in some ways. And so what you need to be thinking is, how will I have a return on this investment that I am making? And so exactly everything that I have highlighted earlier, all of your tuition money and fees, it's going towards support services and all of these kinds of opportunities that are available for students that make it very distinctive and that give you an advantage as you're headed out into the global market and competing for jobs with students from all over the world. And so not only will you have a global family, we also have bears on our campus. This is Lady and Joy. And the Sikkim is kind of our way of cheering people on. And so I wanted to end with a quick Sikkim and say, hey, Sikkim. And that's just kind of a way of saying you can do it. We know that it's really hard as you're looking ahead to a very uncertain next couple of months and future, but know that there are resources available to you. Know that as you do the research and put a little bit of work in on the front end, the payoff for you on the long term will be so much greater. And so that's something that I very much encourage you. If you take away one thing from this presentation as you look to transition, it would be to do the research for the schools that you're interested in, find out what resources are available through each school and take advantage of those. You need to take the initiative. Nobody's going to come to you and make you do these things, but really step out and do what you've been doing and pressing through these hard times. So thanks so much for your time. And if you guys have any questions, I'll stick around and I'll be happy to answer anything. I'll leave my contact information here for you as well.
Thank you, Jennifer. That was a wonderful presentation. Lots of information for students to consider as they're making the transition to the United States. We do have a few questions from
Sure.
people who registered. Noor and Mahfoud and Nadia all have a similar question that really has to do with coping with culture shock and making that transition. What advice do you give to a student who is really struggling, arrives on campus and is really having a tough time coping with the transition? Where should that student go first?
That is a fantastic question and a very common concern among our international students. And like I said, specifically for Baylor, we have an international student orientation in order to help minimize the effects of the culture shock that you will inevitably experience. And so many times the office on campus that will help students, like our International Student and Scholar Services Office, would be a great resource. If you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling like you're not sure how to navigate certain changes with culture, you can reach out to that office. Again, if you're not comfortable speaking with a staff member, there are ambassadors, international ambassadors, who are current students who have been in your exact position, who have gone through the things that you have gone through and can relate and share some of their insight in terms of what has helped them. If you feel like counseling services will be helpful, everything can be connected through the International Student and Scholar Services Office. They'll kind of be a hub for you, and they'll be able to connect you with further resources that will be able to help. And I'll actually go ahead and ask Grace if she would like to jump in, because she served as one of our ambassadors as well. So I'm sure that she has a lot of experience helping students with that transition as well. Mm-hmm.
But also and maybe Grace can address this too. Is there kind of a time frame, like a pattern that you see that, students start out feeling great and then there's a bit of a slump and they just need to work through it? Go ahead, Grace. Oh, is she?
Oh, I don't know if maybe Grace has lost her connection.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. I'll go ahead and answer. That's a great question, because there actually is very much the first few weeks or the first week. Many times we anticipate the first week being the hardest time, and we think, oh, like once I get through that, then it'll be okay. Actually, the adrenaline, kind of the excitement of getting involved and everyone kind of coming together, everybody on campus is new that first week of orientation. Everybody is a freshman during that orientation time. So it is kind of, there's a buzz in the air. It's very exciting for students. But then as things settle in and as the real work of studying and classes and getting adjusted to that, we do tend to see a little bit of students facing more of a bit of a struggle a few weeks into their studies. Of course, there is like an initial hit of some culture shock, like, oh, I didn't expect these students to say these kinds of things or to kind of relate in this way. So there could be a little bit of that, but I think more so, as you mentioned, a few weeks into your time in the US, you can anticipate that there may be a bit of struggle. And so that's why, as I mentioned, being aware of the resources that are available to you early on, get connected to those departments early on, make contacts that you'll feel comfortable reaching out to. Those are all really important for those times. And maybe you will have the smoothest transition into university, and you'll find your friend group really easily. You'll get involved with different organizations and you just find your clique. And that might be the case, but at least you'll have something already in place as a backup to fall back on if you do find that it is a struggle or a bit more difficult. So yeah, I would say being aware of those resources, getting connected early on before you really start to feel a struggle would be a great starting point.
Thank you for that, Jennifer. We have another question from Zubair, who's asking about scholarship opportunities. That's a little bit outside of what we were talking about, but if you can speak to that, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I will be glad to. So different universities, again, will have different scholarship options available. Public universities versus private universities will have different parameters for their scholarship. Baylor being a private university, we have specific scholarships that are set aside for international students. We aren't in a place at this point, unfortunately, to guarantee meeting full demonstrated financial need. However, there is an international student scholarship that helps, that's available to help offset some of the need, as well as a lot of really great early scholarship opportunities. So for Baylor, at least, once you submit your application, that will go towards your admissions process, as well as open up a scholarship portal for you. So starting September 1st, you'll be able to access and apply to all of the different scholarships. And there are different events, like, for example, there might be invitation to excellence for students that are high academic achievers. And all of these events traditionally have been on campus, but this year, because of COVID, it actually works to the advantage for all of our international students because it's all been moved virtually. So you'll have equal access to these campus incoming freshman scholarships. And merit-based scholarships, generally, they are based on your high school transcript, your GPA, as well as your SAT, ACT scores if you submit them. And I say if because many universities in the US, including Baylor, we are test optional. So that means you do not need to have SAT scores in order to apply, and you do not need to have SAT scores to qualify for academic scholarships. So this year, I think many US universities are kind of pivoting. We are very mindful and aware of the impact of COVID and the test cancellations. And so everything will, in terms of the scholarship review process, will be more holistic. That's another piece that I didn't mention in detail, but with US universities, it's not just the grade that you get on your high school scores that will determine your admissibility, but we look again at the whole person and the whole student. Just like our education, we're not just looking at your experience in the classroom, we're looking holistically at everything, what you're doing outside of the classroom, looking ahead towards the future. And so in the same way, our evaluation for scholarship review and for academic review will be holistic. We're going to look at your activities, any writing that you submit to us with short answers or essays. All of those pieces will come together in our ability to get to know you better, essentially.
Thank you. And to that point, somebody is also asking about TOEFL or IELTS. Which one is required and what kind of score?
Yeah, that's a great question. So again, every university has slightly different standard, but I can speak for Baylor. We do have English proficiency documentation requirement. Many of our students already fulfill that. If you attend an international school or an American school where English is the primary language of instruction, as long as you've been there for at least a year of full-time study, that automatically already fulfills that requirement. If you're attending a school where English is not the primary language of instruction, then you'll have options like the TOEFL or the IELTS, or even Duolingo, which has been an option that has become more popular with just the accessibility of it. With TOEFL, I believe our current minimum score is an 80 for direct admission. And there are options available for students that don't meet that minimum English proficiency requirement. Through Baylor, we have a English pathway program that will offer supplemental language support for students that don't necessarily meet that cutoff. But for direct admission for freshmen, typically we do look for about an 80 on the TOEFL, and all of that is published on our website as well.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. And thank you, Grace, for your fantastic presentation today. Also, just want to let you know that you have a shout out from before. I don't know if I pronounced his or her name correctly, from a student at Baylor, is saying,
Awesome.
is there.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I think if you would like to share your contact information in the chat box.
Sure.
Yeah, that would be great. This slide, this is our contact information here, that if you would like to reach out to us at the embassy, here's our email address. Please feel free to contact us with any questions about the application process, or if you're interested in studying in the United States, we're happy to provide guidance around the process. We're also starting something new where we're doing virtual booking for virtual one-on-one meetings. Please check our Facebook page if you're interested in booking an appointment. We're just developing that app. You'll see a little button that says book it, and you can click on that and schedule a time to meet with us virtually to discuss the U.S. university process. Other than that, Melissa, do you have anything you want to add, or Asil?
No, nothing. Just want to thank both Jennifer and Grace. This was great and very helpful. And to students who are watching live, or those who are watching on the recording, again, you know, there are a lot of uncertainties right now with any travel, period. But with things shifting virtually, there are a lot of opportunities for you to really gain the knowledge and the insights in terms of what the experience would be like, and to help you prepare. So definitely do reach out, speak to an advisor, get your questions answered, do the research and the homework to find the place that's going to be a good fit for you. So we hope to be able to help you through that, and to continue enjoying some of the webinars that we have lined up for you. That's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you, Jennifer and Grace. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for everyone who joined us here and joined us on Facebook. It was an interesting session. Thanks a lot for the information. Thanks. Have a great day.
Bye-bye, everyone.